Hi, and welcome to episode 1 of the Entrepreneurial Accountant. Today we have Stefan Barrett of B-Motion. So welcome. I'm excited to get into everything with you. I've been looking forward to this all week. So let's just crack on straight in.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I wanted to start perhaps with, could you tell us the origin story of B-Motion and where you were in your career, perhaps when you wanted to kind of make the move to self-employment?
Sure. So I started B-Motion when I was around about 26 in 2015. So I worked in practice from being 18 to around about 22. I did my qualifications then, and then I went from practice to industry. Which was insightful. And then I went back to practice, and then I thought to myself, well, I need to go self-employed. It was a bit of a kind of big bang moment. So essentially, I was with this within industry for quite some time. Learned an absolute vast amount of ways of working in the commercial side of accounting, and then I started a job, and I was there one day, and I quit on that day and said, I'm going self-employed. And so it was very much like unexpected. I had very minimal clients. I literally, when I say clients, they were friends. There was about 5, a couple of £100 tax return that I do, as self-employed. So it wasn't until I started B-Motion where I said, right, this is it. This is the time. It's make or break. And just went from there, really.
That's awesome. And it's quite unusual, I think, for somebody to have the combination of practice and industry knowledge. So I think that definitely probably sets you apart from the majority of people. Do you feel like there was a point there where you felt like you learned enough to sort of go at it alone?
So the answer would be no, because us accountants feel like we never know enough. So the answer is no. However, looking back, the answer was absolutely yeah, because you don't know until you look back and go, that was when I was ready, but you just don't know. And if I didn't start that job where I was there a day, would it have created B-Motion? Because like many accountants, we can be quite risk averse. But because I got put into a situation where I said I didn't like this job where I was at, I couldn't go back to my previous employment. I was essentially stuck. So I was like, you know what? I've always said I wanted to go self-employed. I've always wanted to have kind of the freedom of being self-employed. I was put in a position and I thought, well, I may as well just give it my all. And within a week, I knew I'd made the right decision because the clients started rolling in, and obviously the work was coming in. And, I was once told by a friend, oh, everyone's got an accountant, going self-employed now is really tough. And to be honest, everyone may have an accountant, but it's having the right accountant and the accountant that's right for the client. So if I was to say anything, don't ever put obstacles in front of you, because anyone can go self-employed any day.
Yeah, definitely. I think you have to have a passion for it. You have to really want it. And as you say, it's a leap of faith. It's always going to be a leap of faith. I don't think you're ever going to know enough, or you're never going to feel like you know enough, because there's always that extra thing that you might learn. You're in, for me, I was in a kind of a generalist tax role, advisory wise. And I was like, every day I'm learning so much. If I stay here for another 6 months, if I stay here for another year, I'm going to know so much more. But I could have said that for a long time.
Forever, you could put that in front, yeah.
Yeah, so the opportunity came along, and I was like, all right, maybe it doesn't feel quite right, but I'm just going to go for it anyway. And I think there's probably a lot of people in that position who are feeling the same way. So as you say, don't put obstacles in your way. Sometimes you have to take that leap of faith. Equally, you may just be like, actually, do you know what? I'm not ready. It is important to have that experience. And as you said, you worked for 10 years in accountancy. So did I. I think I was maybe a bit less, maybe 7, before I felt like the time was right. So it's going to be different for everyone.
I would say as well, there's two elements to it. There's the big bang where you just go, I'm going self-employed. This is it. I've got X amount of cash reserves, or I've got no cash reserves. In my case, I had a laptop I already owned, and I put my printer, scanner, and every other bits on my credit card because there was no money in the pot, because it was just totally unexpected. So you've got that side of big bang, and then you've got the other side where you can transition over a longer period, which is obviously less risky. So I would always say, do what you feel best doing. So if you are risk averse and you think, well, I'm currently employed, I'm getting a salary, obviously there's just been a pandemic, who knows what's around the corner. I'll transition. So I'll have my clients, and I'll build that client base up, and then potentially I can then build that up at the same time as being employed, and then I could go part-time employed. And then I could then shift it over until I feel confident and I've got that buffer. And the great thing is with accountancy as well, is that it's not where you go self-employed and you don't know whether you'll get more work in. You can create a constant revenue stream via recurring revenue. So you could put clients on a subscription-based billing, and then you know that you're getting that guaranteed standing order coming through. So as soon as that supersedes your employment income, it's guaranteed essentially.
Totally. And again, like another thing about the accountancy practice and going at it alone is that it's not like a lot of other sort of businesses where you need loads of upfront investment. Like, as you said, you had your laptop, your printer. Yes, there are other things involved. And if you're going to transition like in one go, you probably do need some savings whilst you build up that kind of like lead sort of pipeline of clients. But ultimately, like, you don't have to go out and buy like £1 million worth of stock. Like, just get going with it, and it's cool. Like, and you do learn on the job. But I think, yeah, like if I was to do it again, I'd probably like transition slowly, because you don't have to do it all in one go. Like, you can just like it can be weekends, it can be like a couple of hours in the evening, and then slowly before you know it, like you're getting there, and you feel like, I think the confidence sort of builds in yourself.
Yeah. When you are self-employed, it's not just a job, it's a lifestyle. So as long as you're happy to accept that being a business owner is having a certain type of lifestyle of essentially, you can switch off, but it depends how passionate you are about your business. If you're passionate and you enjoy what you're doing and you've got a thirst for it, you'll never really switch off because you enjoy what you do. So, and that's what I kind of take from going, self-employed, essentially from a little startup from my mum's garage, pure will, determination, and just the desire to succeed, create what we've got at present. And hopefully in the next 6 to 10 years, it'll be even something more special.
I mean, you've done an amazing job, and it's great. So I think obviously you're talking about the amazing things, the creativity, the freedom, the variety, all that kind of stuff is the upside, I guess. But still, like, imposter syndrome exists. Yes. Like, lack of confidence is there. Like, when I could pass an exam getting 60 or 70%, that's not going to fly when I'm giving advice to the client. That has to be 100%. So it's like bridging that gap with all these different ways are things that I think a lot of accountants or aspiring sole practitioners need to think about from day one, because it can, even like what I found was even simple things I was doubting myself over. I was like, if I was in my job right now, I'd send this out. Like,
yeah, of course.
Now it's like there's no one else to answer. If I've got this wrong, like, it's coming back to me. That's my reputation. That could be a client lost. I don't think I'd be able to sleep with it. So with that on my mind. So yeah, it's a completely different ball game, I think, like what you think compared to what you're confident in sending out. It's
the whole point of being like that. There's no one after you, no one's reviewing after you, and also no one's telling you're doing a good job, because you've not got that kind of that boss to give you a pat on the back and say you've done really well, because the clients obviously appreciate it, but they don't. Clients, I find most clients that are non-financially minded, a lot of business owners are not financially minded. From an accounting perspective, they'll know it from, say, other financial perspective, but not from knowing debits, credits, ETBs, tax legislation. Do you know what I mean? So they'll never give you that pat on the back. So you never get that as well. So it's that kind of not going, am I doing it right? So, I mean, we've had various tax inspections and whatnot. And to be honest, that's the only pat on the back that you'll probably ever get, because then they'll go, we've had an inspection quite recently, and it was like, yeah, you've done a really, really good job. We found nothing in it. Fantastic, good work. And then got a letter to confirm, obviously, they found nothing, and it was just a random inspection, and everything was fine. And then that's probably the last time that I thought, we do a good job. We do a really good job, because someone else has confirmed it. It's not just us.
with pricing, as you said, it's really difficult and everyone does it in many, many different ways. Did you find like that having a staff member do it was better because then you weren't like emotionally like attached to the price? My relationship with the person sometimes, or like just factors that, I don't know, it's a bit emotional somehow.
You're absolutely bang on. So when I first started out, it was very much, I'll charge X amount for this tax return. So whatever it may be. And then, you know, when you give the invoice, like it's that feeling of, here's the invoice. I feel really awkward. It's X amount of days because we're 7 days terms. So we don't exceed the 7 days. And we've got as well to add into this, I always felt awkward chasing the debt. So after the 7 days, if it was due, it would be, oh, can you just, sorry to be a pain. Can you just clear this fee when you get a chance? So you're absolutely bang on. So from the proposal side, I always felt awkward. But then as soon as I set the Go proposal up and said, well, this is what it is, over to you, George. If a client doesn't like it, then unfortunately the price is the price, because I don't want the client to devalue the services that we provide. On the chasing aspect, we then took on Targo, the credit control automation application that bolts into Sage. So that helped as well, because then gone are the days of chasing manually. So Targo, again, set up all your all the emails in, you know, day 2 I have to send this, day 5 send this, day 7 send this. Then they would automate it as well, which is great, because then you don't have to have the, you know, the awkwardness of going, oh, sorry, can you just send over the, you know, the fee, etc. It's like a sense of feeling cheeky, but it's not, because you're doing a service, you're doing a great job. But I know exactly what you mean.
You've done the work. And do you know what? It's funny, like, because a lot of people feel really awkward about it, and I feel awkward about a million things, but I don't feel awkward about that at all. Like, if somebody is like taking ages, like, yeah, we'll send them, and like, I'll send them a nudge email. And it's I did that for you. Like, I worked really hard. Like, you asked me to do something for you. I turned it around really quickly. Like, why is it taking you 3 months?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, I get it, like from your perspective, obviously, like it is. And maybe like when there's loads of clients and all that kind of stuff, like you think, do you know what, I'm just going to automate this. And like,
yes.
But I don't think people should feel shy. Like, we kind of discussed like having a kind of credit control email address where like I'd pretend to be credit control.
Yeah.
No, I'm just not doing that. I'm not going to be the person who pretends to be like, I'm going to hand this over to that. No, like, I'm just going to do it because I think, like, for me, it's just obviously like everyone has different ways of doing it. But
yeah,
I just feel like, fair enough. Like, you wouldn't go to a restaurant and like walk out, like
correct,
order loads of stuff, walk out and be like, oh, next time I'll come drop the money off in like 2 months' time. Like, it'd be like, no, absolutely not. And I don't think this is any different. It's just how things go in the industry. But, you know, that's why we're here. That's why we're entrepreneurial accountants. We're here to try and change those things.
That's it. And it's all about creating that, you know, that structure from day one. I wish I did that from day one. So I spent 4 years trying to learn how to do it and finding out the hard way, because I found out from actually doing it. But if I was to go back, absolutely, I wouldn't necessarily use Go Proposal from day one, because I don't think it probably just started. I think it started about 2016. So, but I would have certainly kind of had the structure in place. So another one, going back, if I was to start my own business again, I would get a practice management software from day one, because what we did is we got sent it like in like year 3. So we just run it off I run it off a spreadsheet for 2 years, because I was like, I can't afford a practice management software. I could afford it. It's just that I didn't look further than my nose, because it's well worth the investment. So we stripped down Center, because it's one of them where you can literally just, you know, knock it to the ground, and we built it up the B-Motion way. So we have workflows in there that get ticked off by every employee as then when they're doing like accounts preparation, or they're doing VAT returns, bookkeeping. Then behind that workflow, we have process notes. So if an employee is unsure of anything, then, oh, I'm unsure about that, right, go to the process note. And then the process note then can assist them. And then obviously, if they're still unsure, then obviously the practice manager can step in. But 9 times out of 10, the process notes are that good. They can help the employee, and then it's back to the drawing board and ticking off the workflow. So going back, just from a administration and kind of like structured point of view, and how the core of the accountancy practice has to be, because at the end of the day, if you're sorting someone else's business out and you're keeping their core tight via, doing the accounts and the financials, what about your business? Because, it's not an accountancy practice, it's a business, and that core needs to be tight. And I find that the practice management software, the CRM system, has to keep everything close knit, especially as the business grows. I found that, invaluable.
Now, do you think there's value to a CRM practice management software if you're like a one-man band? Or would you say like it's better if you kind of like, once you've got your first employee or maybe second employee, like that's when you're like, okay, maybe let's try? Because like, I presume, like for me, I think everything's in here a lot of the time because I don't have employees. I'm just like, do you know what? I've done this so many times. Like I know what's going to happen. Like I know how, and everything's just, I mean, there's a lot like in spreadsheets and things like you said, just to like make sure I'm on target and whatnot.
So it's a good question because I didn't do it. But then I'm also looking back going, I should have done that. So
even from day one,
I should have done it from day one because the reason being, what you want to do is you want to set the structure up now and spend the time going, right. And it sounds a bit mad, but what you want to do is you want to essentially go, right, I'm me. This is my business. I work for my business. My business is me. However, but in day one, if you could take yourself out of the business and everything if you can put down into that CRM system, how you prepare a set of accounts, how you go through the purchase day book, reconciling to the bank, the debtors ledger, the creditors ledger, asking for personal tax account information, P60s, P45s, if you've got all that in the CRM system, you know that. But if you kind of go away for a week and someone replaces you for a week, how are they going to run your business? Because it's all in your head.
Look, I already know that I want to have another chat with you about all this stuff, like certainly about the tech, about systemizing, like putting workflows in place, because what you're doing, I feel very much is like building for scale. Like if you're building for scale from day one, a lot, like there may be a lot of people who perhaps aren't, and they're just thinking, do you know what, like I want quite a small footprint here. So part two will come. All this stuff. I think how I would love to end this would be to sort of ask you if you kind of were thinking of starting your own business again and you could go back in time, what words would you say to yourself?
I'd probably say, why didn't I do this earlier? Why didn't I just do it? And why did I procrastinate and defer things and think, if I get to this, I'll then do it. If I get to that, then I'll do it. Because by kind of putting them barriers in front of yourself, you're effectively stopping the path that you can create, and just do it sooner is what I'd say. Don't get me wrong. You couldn't leave school and start your own practice. Obviously there's that kind of element of qualifications and experience and learning from being employed, but you'll never feel like you're ready to go self-employed unless you just make the jump and then it work, and then you look back and go, perfect, that was great. But you'll always have that little bit of doubt and go, what if it goes wrong? Well, what happens if it does go wrong? You just go back to employment and you start again, or you transition slower. You don't do the big bang, you do a semi-transition. It didn't work, we go back to employment. We find out why it didn't work, we tweak, we try again. If you want to go self-employed and you want that freedom, you just keep going and going and going until it works. And that's what business is about. If you start your own business and you get hit by your first stumbling block and you quit, then being self-employed isn't for you.
Amazing. Well, Stefan, thank you so much. You've been an absolutely incredible guest. I've loved speaking with you and I've learned so much. So hopefully we can get a part 2 in there at some point.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for having me. I do appreciate it.
Speaking to you again. Cheers, mate.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
To make sure you catch every episode, subscribe to the channel or sign up to the Sage Advice newsletter at the bottom of the page.